In this video I'm going to look at the electrolysis of brine. So a good place to start is to say, well, what is brine? Well, it's a solution of sodium chloride. So we can represent that with the formula NaCl aqueous. So essentially what we're going to do is pass electricity through this solution of sodium chloride. So we'll identify which ions are going to be present in this solution. So from the sodium chloride we've got Na plus ions and Cl minus ions. From the water we've actually got H plus ions and OH minus ions. So we've got two positive ions, two negative ions. So essentially what's going to happen is one of these negative ions is going to be attracted to the positive electrode, the anode. One of the positive ions is going to be attracted to the negative electrode, the cathode. So which one is going to be attracted? Well, in the case of the negative ions, it's the chloride ions that go in preference to the hydroxide ions. In the case of the positive ions, it's the hydrogen ions. So the first thing we need to establish is what's going to happen at each of these electrodes. So we'll start with the positive electrode, the anode. So chloride ion arrives here, and what it does is it drops off the electron that's given it that negative charge. And what happens is the electrons start to travel around the circuit and they end up sitting on this negative electrode, the cathode. So what will the chloride ion become? If it loses an electron, it'll become a chlorine atom. Now, every time two chloride ions arrive at the anode, each one gives away an electron, and what's going to form would be a chlorine molecule. So this is the half equation for the reaction that takes place at the anode. And because the chloride ions are losing electrons, this is oxidation. So you would actually see bubbles of gas being produced at the positive electrode, and this is obviously chlorine gas. So what's going to happen at the negative electrode? Well, these hydrogen ions, they're going to collect an electron that the chloride ion has sent round and turn into a hydrogen atom. And every time two of those do that, remember each one's going to pick up one electron each, we're going to form a molecule of hydrogen. And so you would see bubbles of gas at this electrode as well, and that would be H2 gas. Because the hydrogen ions are gaining electrons, this is called reduction. So what about these two ions that are left over in the solution? So we've got the sodium ion and the hydroxide ion. Well, they're going to combine and form the chemical sodium hydroxide. You can see I've added some extra information in green there. So why do they carry out this process, this electrolysis of brine? So you can see there the sodium hydroxide, that's used in the manufacture of soap, and chlorine is used in the manufacture of bleach and in the manufacture of plastics such as PVC, which you may have heard of, that stands for polyvinyl chloride. One last thing to point out is you might be wondering why the hydrogen ion goes to the negative electrode in preference to the sodium ion, and that's down to the relative reactivities of these two substances. Sodium is more reactive than hydrogen, and therefore sodium prefers to stay as its ion, and that's why the hydrogen ion goes to the negative electrode.